Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, from our morning break. Moving swiftly along. Our panel discussion for our Congress this year is a panel discussion on social sustainability practices, empowering the Brigade of Tomorrow. Our moderator is our very own Shonah Chalmers, our Vice Chairman of Feed the Planet. Unfortunately, Chris couldn't make it down this time, but Shonah is a much more beautiful version. Agreed, says Mr. Uwe. Don't tell him that. Don't record that bit. Joining Shonah will be Cosimo Scarano, the head of Electrolux Food Foundation, of course. James Khoza, our executive chef at the Santon and Son Hotel, but more importantly, the immediate past president of the South African Chefs Association. Where's our South African gang? Immediate past, yeah? Immediate past, right. Just getting it right, James. And of course, Max Simpson, the CEO of the STEPS community. Shonah, over to you. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, here we go. Good luck.
All right. Welcome, welcome. So, let me just get my skinny sorted out here. How's everyone doing this morning? Oh, you can do better than that. You can do way better than that. So today we have an amazing panel with us, and we are going to discuss, one second, I'm going to turn off my laptop so it doesn't make noise for you all. All right, so this is a conversation about barriers in the kitchen, all right? So we as chefs, we pour our hearts and our souls into everything we do in the kitchen, sometimes at a cost. It can be overwhelming in the kitchen, long work days, maybe you don't take breaks, sometimes you don't take vacations, burnouts, times in those fridges and freezers where you have those conversations with people trying to pull them back in, and often the thrill of the service overshadows the pure exhaustion that you feel often in the kitchen, right? And we have an incredible panel with us here, and each with unique experiences. And I believe it's going to resonate with all of you. I promise this will not just be a chat. This is going to be something that you can take home with you. On my flight over from Singapore, I was reading an article about Canadian employers and what the retention rate is on new staff. And they said that the turnover rate is about 79% in Canada. And that's sort of across the board globally, about 70 to 80% turnover rate. So what that means, because I didn't quite understand what that number meant, in a year, you're replacing 79% of your staff. Now, that's a staggering number. When we were pre-pandemic, it was about 70%. During the pandemic, it went up to about 132%. Now it's at about 79%, which is awful, because every time you're replacing someone, that's costing you about, in Canadian dollars, about $3,500, which is almost at par with Singapore dollars, for every single person you're replacing. So think if you're doing that 10 times in a year, you're paying for someone's salary just in training, right? So the reason we want to talk about what we're talking about today is to give you some insight in how to retain staff. Now, before we get to any of that, I want to have each of our panel, now I haven't primed them with much of anything. We sort of chatted on the side, and here we go. So very candid, very open conversation about, I would like, if you would, maybe whoever would like to start, James, maybe if you want to start, with a story of something where you saw a barrier or something in the kitchen that was really made it challenging for you to move forward.
Thanks, Shonah. I think for me as a chef, I can relate to most of you here, guys. I think when you come into a kitchen as a young person, there's an intimidation phase. I think the environment and the military look and the way people talk, the language, it's a let off. So for me, when I started as a chef, I couldn't comprehend it because we were being screamed at unnecessarily. Even though you didn't do anything wrong, maybe the head chef or the exec chef forgot to do something, you get the bad end of it. So for me, those are the stories I think that make our profession a little bit negative, if you can say. But I think right now, there's those opportunities that we can reimagine the kitchen and make sure that the profession grows better and be appealing to other people. So yeah, it was that. And the other one that really was let down for me is that you come up with different, you see ideas, creativity, you want to innovate, and you try to put it out there and you're shut down all the time. So I think those are the little bit of stories that we have. I think each one of us here have that kind of a story to relate to. Yeah, Sean, I think those were the challenges that
Absolutely.
we're having. Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. So, Cosimo or Max, is there any sort of relatable workplace story? You work in really amazing parts of our industry, not directly as chefs, we want to clarify. They both want to make sure you knew they weren't chefs. But they have opportunities to open doors, and they see a lot of barriers. What's some of the barriers maybe you've seen in what you do?
So we work specifically with the neurodivergent community, so people with autism, ADHD, Down syndrome, and so on. And we work a lot in the hospitality industry where we go into kitchens and they're very busy, high stress, disorganized sometimes, really hard for any new person to integrate themselves into that system. So we run trainings for companies to understand how to make workplace accommodations, so ways that we can make simple adjustments to the workplace to make it more accessible for our community, but we saw a very quick payoff that it then benefit everybody. So we put in clear signage, visual supports on every fridge, every box that you use in the kitchen, everything, which is very simple, but we saw very quickly from the feedback from our clients that this was helping new starters, this was helping non-native speakers of the language in the kitchen, this was helping people integrate and be independent faster than they were before, and not just for our community, for everybody. So I think there's little changes that we can make that make the workplace more inclusive, but they're also helping to make that a universal design approach for everybody.
Fabulous. Yeah, that's really opening doors in new ways, right? And that job market, so when you're looking at your team as a whole, Cosimo, I'm going to get you, don't worry. You want to see that you have a diverse group, right? You do not want all of one type of person. It's terribly boring, it's one-dimensional, and I mean one type in any way you can think about it. I know that when I've created teams where I've worked, by the time I had, taken over a place and I was running 2 different golf courses and a seniors facility at the same time, my staff was so diverse. It was amazing. By 2 years in, I had neurodivergency. I had all, cultures and types and kinds and ages, and it was like an orchestra moving beautifully together. The music was so well because one would help the other. Where someone's weakness was, another one's strength would be. So Cosimo, share a little bit of what you've seen, what you do with Like a Chef.
Yes, exactly. So it's actually an interesting question, because what we do with Like a Chef, that many people in the audience already know, it's this culinary training program that we deliver in collaboration with world chefs in the Feed the Planet partnership, but also with lots of national chef associations. With this program, we do break barriers. That's the main purpose of the program. We train people from underprivileged group, people that do not usually get into the culinary industry, to take that first step into a professional kitchen. We work with people that never stepped into a professional kitchen before. They never worked with professional appliances. So the feeling that the project coordinators get whenever they see a new group of students getting for the first time into the kitchen, wearing a jacket, wearing a hat, that's very powerful. Because, for different reasons, the groups that we work with, they don't get this opportunity. We work with refugees, so of course they are excluded from many job opportunities. We work with neurodivergent people as well. We work with transgender people in some countries. It's groups that are marginalized. They don't get the same opportunities. So everything is a barrier. It's not just in the kitchen. They experience a lifetime of barriers, and we help them overcome at least some of them.
So you're both doing amazing work in all this, but there's still a lot of barriers. I mean, I know growing up in a kitchen, going through my years, I've been over 30 years in a kitchen now, and there's a lot of you, I'm sure, that have a moment, if you take a second and think about it, of a time when maybe you weren't treated as fairly as you should have been. So being the only quite often happens in the kitchen, whether it's the only female or the only person of color or the only person of neurodivergency. I can get the word out, I promise. But I can think back to a time I had worked in a kitchen where I worked fine dining. I was the only female there, which was often the case wherever I was, which was fine. My team was amazing. The guys were super great, supportive. I worked harder, faster, longer on every station I could. And then our chef left and a new chef came in. And he had waited till everyone was out of the kitchen, and this was his second day there. And he came over to me and he said, "Why do you even bother?" And I was like, "What is he talking about? Talking about the crab?" Or he's like, "No, why do you even bother coming in? You should just stay home and make babies." Straight to me, straight up. I was like, huh. Challenge accepted, my friend. So 30 years later, I'm still doing what I'm doing. But there are these barriers everywhere. And it is a culture in the workplace and in the kitchen of hustle and push and constant struggle. Maybe we could share what maybe processes or something you've seen that can, that has made it have a lack of support. Like, where's the lack of support in the kitchen? Where, or in the workplaces? Where are the missing pieces? What are we missing in the kitchen?
Can I go?
Go ahead, James.
I think for me, what's missing in the kitchen, I think in the whole brigade system is leadership. I think chefs, they don't understand leadership. Sometimes we confuse management with leadership. I think as a leader, you need to be a parent. That's first and foremost. And I think all your team members are your children. They want to learn from you. So normally you need to lead from the front, yes. And if you discipline everybody the same way. And also, I think in a kitchen as a leader, you must foster or encourage empowerment of leadership. You must share leadership. It's not about you only. I think that's where we lose it. And most instances, you find that we have the old ways of managing. Yes, we understand the brigade system comes from August Escoffier. It was as is because it was the nature of the times in that time, because I think they were picking up people from the street and teaching them, and that's why you need a general to lead. So, but with times, because we evolve, the cell phones you're carrying evolve, as cars evolve, we as human beings as well evolve. We become more intelligent. And as more people go to schools, we need to actually, as leaders, adapt to the new ways of relating to our teams better. We need to foster, I think, or incubate an environment of teaching. Because like I said, we are parents. So as a parent, you need to love your children the same way and teach them the same way. You want them to succeed. As you succeed, they succeed as well. So I think that's a gap that's lacking between the kitchen discipline or the chefing discipline as compared to other disciplines of the world. I think that's why sometimes we are, if you look, I come from South Africa, I think maybe you find that they look at us as a profession that is there. Because we're failing to evolve, to progress to the times that we're living in. We forget as well to make sure that we move our profession to the current or the levels that other professions have evolved. Yeah, I think that's the only way. We need to lead. And leadership is about you also learning every day. You are not the only person that knows everything. And if you look at the brigade system of the kids of today, they know more. They're more intelligent than us. But sometimes we find that we don't give them the opportunity to explore those concepts, those ideas. Then we sort of coach them in the right direction that we need them to be. So for me, Shonah, it's about leadership.
Yeah, absolutely, with leadership. So along with leadership, let's jump into where you fit into this, Max. What would you say would sort of create an environment where young chefs can flourish, where the team can grow? What do you see as being sort of key factors that chefs can take home with them and say, let's start doing this?
I think my experience working in kitchens is that it's quite hierarchical, and then this prevents mentorship from being effective because nobody else wants to jump in to support anybody else because everybody's waiting for the most senior person to have a voice. And then this prevents culture shift because actually we want our younger employees to also be able to mentor others and share ideas and bring that diversity through in different voices, but the hierarchy prevents it. So I think that mentorship piece is really, really significant in especially echoing what James says, getting the younger generation to come forward and share and be part of the vision and, you know, what we're trying to create together. But at this stage, like, we don't see much of that happening because it's blocked.
Do you see, just playing on that a little bit, this mentorship, do you see it, what sort of form? Do you see it like a buddy system, or do you see it, because no one wants to take on extra work in a kitchen, you're busy, you've got your head down, you want to get through what you got to get through, but how can we realistically in real terms do this, do you think?
I think unfortunately sometimes this needs to be a little bit individualized because we all learn and take feedback differently, and it needs to be adjusted, but you can create supporters of your mentorship within your team, so it's not all on the head chef. You can have other people doing that work for you. I also think that, you know, I think people will tell you often what they need and how they need that to be presented to them, and having those conversations early on in someone's onboarding can really help define how we're going to do this. Buddy systems are really effective for neurodivergent community, we've seen, but what often is a barrier is there's a set time that people are willing to do this, and once
then they cut
probation
it off.
and then it's gone.
Yeah.
But actually doing this on an ongoing basis is much more effective for everybody.
Yes.
And that can look like a weekly check-in or an out, you know, a 10 minutes in the morning. It doesn't need to be a huge time-consuming activity, but when done well, I think you gain that time back because they're more efficient, they're more engaged, they turn up on time, your attrition rates
You're retaining staff, you're not
exactly right.
retraining people.
Absolutely.
Cosimo, what have you seen that maybe could encourage people to stay in, or what are some of the pieces you've seen through the Like a Chef program?
It's a very unique balance, you know, and very, it's different case by case, you know. I think part of the leadership skills that chefs, but whatever manager in any circumstance should learn is to read their team members, you know. Every person needs a different way of being mentored, a different way of being monitored as well, a different way of learning new information, getting in new information. So yesterday there was someone mentioning about the fact of paying interns in the restaurant, you know, and of course, like, not paying shouldn't be the norm, but also it doesn't mean that the more you pay people, then all the problems are gone, and they will stay forever with you, and they will be loyal and build your brand and business, whatever. You know, it's there. You need to find a balance there between giving them the right economical treatment, but also the right recognition, the right level of mentorship, open up doors for them, be there for them as well. They need to see chefs in the kitchen, they need to see their managers as someone that is contributing to their success, that is not exploiting their skills, their time, their energy, you know. So I think this is what keeps people inside a business, or at least commit them to stay in the business
longer.
Until they have reached, you know,
Then help them move on to
maximum
somewhere
potential.
else, great, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, we want to send people home. I don't want people, you know, dozing off and saying, you know, this is just a bunch of talk. I really want you to take tools home with you, right? So what I want to ask, or something I know I did when I was a chef in a place. I'm still a chef, but I teach now. My team is very different. There are 300 students rather than 25 staff members. But I would do a check-in with each person when I walk in the morning. And not anything big. It's learning what each person needs. This person, you check in and say, you know, how's your mom doing? This person, you show them a new skill. Starting to individualize how you help and mentor them and really making that meaningful. Another thing I did was set in my calendar from the hire date, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, doing a quick review. Not a big, long process that takes the whole day or a long hour. It's something that you give them feedback. Everybody needs to know how we get better. When you do competitions, when you do anything else, you know the feedback is the most valuable part of what you're doing in that competition. All the training, all the stuff, if you get no feedback, you're not going to learn anything from it. So the feedback that you give as a chef or as a mentor or as a chef de cuisine, this is helping retain your staff. This is helping keep them. What other sort of practices or policies do you see as things you could implement to help keep and lift up your team?
I think from my perspective, specifically for neurodivergent community, is doing those check-ins in varied ways, because not everybody processes information in the same way. Not everybody is strong in verbal communication. So this could be a quick email, it could be a quick WhatsApp message, whatever platform you're using, just to allow them more time to think through. Maybe that very quick 5-minute face-to-face is a bit stressful for some
Yeah, I
people.
glaze over a little
and
bit.
glaze over, or that they've come in and they're sleepy, or they're hungover, or whatever it is.
Yes.
Maybe not everybody is ready for that first thing in the morning. So asking them, and if they're not sure, trial out different ways of having that interaction with them, and you monitor.
Yeah, so not having
where
a
they're
cookie cutter,
sharing the most.
cutter for everyone,
Yeah.
to really see what works for each person, each part of your team, because everybody's going to need, because I know you can talk to me and I don't even see, I don't hear. It just doesn't stay in. I have the attention span of a fruit fly, right? So sometimes it needs to be written down, and then I digest it and I can come back to you. So you
Exactly
have,
that.
in 10 days, come back to me with any questions. And it can be, you can have it on your own time written up. What a great idea, right? And then they could have it in their dossier of things to improve on. You can make it like a checklist. Here's things that you need to work on. What a
Absolutely.
great
Love
tool to have,
checklists,
right?
Yeah, everywhere, checklists all the time.
Yes, I live and die by Excel. Right? Cosimo, any thoughts on practices or policies?
Always working, like I'm not a chef, so working as a project coordinator,
Yes.
and having experienced different groups of
Yes.
people in different kitchens. One thing that I always find very critical for the success of the project, and also for the team building process, is that if a person has something to share that is bothering them, or it's not going as they expected, I invite them to come to me at the end of every lesson and tell me about it, or like just go home and send me a message or an email, whatever. Because if there's something that can be addressed, we need to do that quickly without tension keep growing, and then things get bigger, and then it's a snowball effect. And I'll tell you, it's not a fun story, but it is kind of fun if you are not me, how I learned that. Because when we launched the first Like a Chef program in Brazil, we had this group of people there, the very first one, and I had no experience in how to manage 24 people for 8 weeks, every day into a kitchen for 6 straight hours, people with zero experience with such environment.
For a non-chef.
Exactly. So what happened is that there were 2 people in 2 working stations next to each other, and then they were starting to fight the very first week, because one was taking the utensils from the other one.
Oh my gosh.
They were all the same utensils. I don't know how they would say this was mine, this was yours. Anyway. And then a person would say, you stole my cutting board, and you stole my knife, and everything.
Infighting.
Exactly. After 3 weeks, one day, in the middle of the lesson, a real fight started.
Oh my gosh. With
a
knives
fight
in the
with
kitchen.
knives in their hands. They started to try to stab each other.
Oh my gosh.
And I was recently hired by Electrolux. So I was like, my life is going to happen in the very next minute if I don't do anything. So I jumped in the middle of these 2 people fighting with knives. I don't know how I survived. I just separated them. I broke one of my fingers.
Oh my gosh.
So I went to the hospital after that. But then at least no one was like bleeding at the end. But this is exactly an example of that. It's something very small. It's like, you got my cutting board, you got my knife.
But if you had set up something for communication early, then it would have...
Yes, exactly. Just by reading the room, I could have maybe solved that weeks before this very serious fight. So sometimes it's just like also reading the room, like feeling the air inside the team, inside the kitchen, and try to unlock these things.
Can I add to this?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's also like looking at your own skill sets as a leader as well. And you're not good at everything, and that's okay, and you don't need to be. So if you're not the most welcoming person that you feel like your team are going to open up to, deploy somebody else in your team to play that role.
Give it to your sous chef,
Yeah, exactly. Like, so that you don't create a barrier where people aren't going to come to you because they don't feel comfortable talking to you. And yes, we can all work on those things to try to improve it, but while we're working on it, we don't want that to be a block where we don't find out a problem or a personal issue or a learning goal somebody has. Get someone else to facilitate that role.
Like even an anonymous, like if there's something in your kitchen and it's not feeling like EDI, it's not equal for everyone, or you're feeling you're not being treated fairly, you're not going to come out and say to your chef, I don't care who you are not going to come out to your chef and say, oh, I don't feel like I'm being treated like everyone else. No, but if it was anonymous and you could just put it in and say, maybe we could try this for everyone. It just gives the chef something to trigger and say, yeah, maybe we create a policy where we say, we have a 0 tolerance for bullying. We have a 0 tolerance for discrimination or harassment, right? We make sure that it's clear when the person signs on, create policies that make people feel safe, right? To have policies that say, you will not do this, you will not, it doesn't work. It doesn't work, it's just browbeating. But when you have something that says, we are going to make you safe, we are going to be inclusive, if you don't feel that you're being fairly treated, we're going to have check-ins on a regular basis, and we're going to have an anonymous space that you can drop tips in to say, here's how we can improve the team. Like, great ways to check and think of how much better your team is going to be.
Yeah. To me as well, that's true. It doesn't say that by being that type of a leader or kitchen, you are soft. I think this macho thing must sort of fade away, because we understand that at the times that we're living in, we're supposed to nurture talent, and with the skills shortage right now, I think we need to adapt. We need to adapt the way we talk. I think also in terms of communication, I think most senior chefs, they don't communicate well, and most chefs most senior chefs, they create a facade that says that don't talk to me. So if you say don't talk to me, your next leader in line, exec sous, also behaves like you. And it carries down to your CDP. So you're creating a ripple action of guys that cannot be communicated to. So I think we need to relax a little bit. And that's gonna help us maintain the staff in our kitchen, and we won't have that high turnover of staff. Because sometimes it's not about money, it's about the environment that is created for me to flourish as an intern or as a commie. So for me, it's about environment, proper leadership, proper delegation as well, and an open door policy, and making sure that, again, you need to share responsibilities. You need to train the future leaders. You cannot be alone, the leader, and your sous chef and your exec sous chef. We need to move as a team, and we need to succeed as a team. So for the success to be there, to be guaranteed for the future, and to make sure that our profession is more appealing to the younger generation, we need to lose a little bit of the macho-ness. I don't think we all are like that. I think we do it because of the pressures that we get at work. But I don't think when you get home, you retain that look. I think you must look at your workplace as a second home as well. There's your children. So if you can maintain both sides of your domain, I think we'll be much better, Sean.
Yeah, absolutely. This open door policy, every chef I ever worked for says, oh, I have an open door policy. I have an open door policy. Yeah, you do, right? Yeah, until you want me to ask you something, or I need help with something, or I want to know how to move up in the ladder, your open door policy goes out the window, right? So I want real open door policies where it says, I welcome the discussion. I worked under autocratic, dictator, hard-ass chefs my whole life. And then when I finally took over my own place, I said, I'm going to park that over here, because as a female chef, you either become a bitch or you become a softie. That's 100% your choices. And I said, I'm not going to become either. I'm going to be firm but fair. I'm going to be firm but fair with everybody. So I decided consciously that I would make time for each person, and it takes a lot in your head until you get used to it, right? It takes a lot in your head. But once you start making time for the people and you start setting up all these little check-ins, you're going to find that this open door policy is really easy. What I used to do, one of the things, we had a fine dining restaurant, I was at a golf course. So we had a fine dining restaurant, banquet, pub, on-course food, all the bells and whistles, right? And for the fine dining restaurant, all the new cooks, young cooks, they wanted to be a part of creating the menu. They wanted to be, and my sous chefs are like, oh, no. Chef, you need to do this. And I'm like, no. I took out a big flip chart, went into the great hall. I said, come on, let's go, everyone sit down. So I said, give me 6 proteins. Give me 6 or 12 seasonal vegetables. Let's cross-match them with what pairs well with what. We just wrote our menu. That's our menu for the next 9 days. Let's go. And they were blown away. When can we do it again, right? So I never changed it once a week. I didn't change it 2 times a week. I have all kinds of things going on. But I liked it every 9 days because they never knew when it was coming. It's like, new menu day. Let's go outside. We're going to order the stuff. We start this tomorrow. And it made them feel a part of the menu creation, the process, this open door policy, this way of doing things. I had the staff, they would do anything. We'd go out in the morning when we were in off season in the golf course, something else I would do, and this is not a I do fabulous things, but there's a lot of smokers in my kitchen. So I had quit smoking and I wanted to start running. My body is not built for running, but I said we're going to run the golf course every morning before we start our shift. So whoever was in the AM shift, they'd come in. I said, get on. Some of them would go out with a cigarette in their mouth running, which would make me crazy because they could run faster than I would, still smoking. But we'd do the run on the course, and then we'd sit down together. Okay, what's today? Any problems? Any troubleshooting? It takes so little, but you have to commit to it, right? Really earnestly seeing and checking in with people and finding ways in your day to lift them up. It makes you think it's going to make it harder doing these things, but your life becomes so much easier because everybody pulls for you when you're pulling for them, right?
Yeah. And I think as the turnover rates that you're talking about,
Yes.
and I'm sure you're seeing the new generation come in, question things like DEI, EDI, whichever acronym
Yes.
you want to, and if you're not ready to answer their questions, they're not coming to work for you anymore
That's
because
right.
they want to make sure you've got those values embedded. And I love what you were saying about creating that culture together.
Yes.
Like, what do we want the feedback process to be in this space? What do we want communication to look like? How should these things, and that evolves over time. And I think that the new generation, like building on, like they've got a good voice in this and they know what they want more so, I think, than previous generations, and they're a bit more confident with their voice. But we still need to give them the opportunity to come in and know they will be heard and taken seriously. And this is where DEI can be so effective.
So then I start to think about what can we tell, we've got young chefs here as well, what can we tell them when they're looking for employers, I'm throwing this curveball out here, what should they be asking? What should they be asking when they walk into that interview to know they're going to be in a good, safe place, in a place that's going to nurture their growth, in a place that's going to take care of them, and still push their limits, still get them great at food, still do all the things but in a way where you can still ask for a vacation and not feel terrible. What can a young chef maybe?
That's a tough one. I think mostly, it starts from chef schools. I think the lecturers and principals, chefs, educators at chef schools, they project a wrong image of the industry, of the kitchen. So the guys, when they come from college to mainstream, they are already scared. They are afraid. For me, I think because they are a generation that are opinionated, guys that ask questions, that guys that doesn't care. So I think for me, they must carry on doing that. For us, for our profession to evolve, we need people that can be brave and courageous and ask questions and challenge the leaders. If you don't challenge the leader, the leader becomes so comfortable that we don't move forward.
Complacent.
So so we need youngsters, young chefs that are bold. They ask those difficult questions. It makes the leaders as well be on their
Step
toes.
up.
Yes,
Yeah.
they have to step up and learn as well that I'm leading a new generation of chefs. So it means that I'm also carry on learning. It's not about the skills. It's about man management. Skills we can learn depending on the environment. But it's how you manage the people that gets you across. It's a tipping point, I always call that. It's a tipping point of success or failure. So as a leader, you measured against the people that you're having, against the youngsters that you have in your kitchen. I think the times are right now, are ripe for us we got low-hanging fruits of the youngsters willing and wanting to be part, to be in the kitchen, to work those hours. I think it's how we handle them, how we answer them, their questions. Yeah, I think it's all about that.
So, Cosimo and Max, you must have something that you could, I know you can. For a young chef looking to go into the workforce, a young person going to look into the workforce, what should they look for or what should they ask? What's that piece that they need to know to go into a place that's good and great for them?
I like it when they've studied all the policies around DEI on the website, they've gone through the social media and the comms, and then they ask you questions about it, of how you bring it to life in your kitchen. Because policy is policy, and they all sit there on a website somewhere, but how do you actually do it? And if you are asked that question, would you be ready as a senior chef to answer it. So
Yeah.
it's on you as well to prepare for this. But this is what I would encourage the young chefs to do. Ask the hard questions. How do you ensure psychological safety here?
Yeah.
What would happen if? Present some scenarios back to your future boss to see how
That's
they would
great.
answer
That's
it.
a great idea.
But yeah, don't take policies at face value. I
Yeah,
think it's
because it could just be words on a screen, right?
absolutely, yeah.
Cosimo, thoughts on yours?
I think it all comes to, working is a human experience as well. So now this new generation, if it's Gen Z or like whatever we call it, it's getting into the job market. And I'm sure each one of you has read some piece of news that would say Gen Z doesn't care about commitment, doesn't care about loyalty, doesn't care about work. They just want to stay on social media or do whatever. That is not true, of course. It's oversimplifying reality. On the other side, of course, a young person that is entering the job market needs to understand that there are situations in the industry that this person is entering that unfortunately cannot change from one day to the other. So a base of this healthy relationship should be having a transparent conversation, a transparent relationship between the young chef entering the kitchen and the more experienced chefs or the head chefs in the kitchen to meet halfway. I'm not saying that a young chef that is entering should already be given on the first year 2 months of vacations or a super high pay or like working shifts, for example. We know that they can change. It's reality of many kitchens. You can never plan 100% accurately, the times every day, every week of the year. But there's the difference between having a chef that tells you, young chef, you need to commit to come here every day, no weekends, no vacations, 12 hours working shifts, and that's it, stop, period. If you don't like it, you leave.
Yeah.
With another chef that says, come to my kitchen, I believe in you as a young talent, but be aware that sometimes there would be no notice or very short notice if you need to cancel your day off, but we'll make up to you and give you 2 days off next month if possible. And at some point there will be vacations for you, and at some point there will be this growth opportunity. This is how you welcome a new talent in the kitchen. You cannot ask a young person to come with all dreams and experience and learning and say, this is how it is. You need to fit in this small square, because this is how I was told, this is how this was done, this business was done for the last 50 years, and you just need to adjust to that. That is not the way,
The ideologies are 50 years old, right? You want to think about when you're walking into an interview. For me, I'd have young people nowadays telling me, do you have flexible schedules? I have to be off Sundays. And you're like, oh, no, everybody has to work Sundays sometimes. But what if I had a cook, Joshua. He was amazing. And he could not work Sundays. He was a dedicated churchgoer. But when he was there, I did not have to check a cart. His attention to detail was amazing. I did not have to double check anything he did. You want to keep him. So why are you not going to give him the opportunity? Because he can't work a Sunday? Get out of your own head. Because you need to have flexible schedules. You need to have the possibility to have time off if you need it. We don't take vacations. Many of the chefs, they say, oh, no, I don't take vacations. That's for soft people. I'm like, or for people who want mental health, wellness, right? That you don't have work-life balance, that you don't do things that are good for yourself. We have been, and I have lived, and we have lived through an industry that pushes you to every limit, makes you harder, I became so robotic, so stiff-minded that I didn't think anything outside. I didn't see my family. I didn't do holidays. When I was hired on as a chef, I said, I don't care about vacation. I don't need a car. I don't want a phone. I don't need days off. All I want is autonomy. I want control of everything. That's what I asked for. One line, autonomy. So, how we've grown. So you want to think, maybe there's something beyond just owning all the marbles. Maybe there's something that with having these amazing cooks, and they stay with you. The team that I built when I was at that golf course, they stayed with me for 5 years, and when I started teaching, they stayed, most of them, for 4 or 5 years after that. That's long. That's amazing. That's a testament to building a team that has cohesiveness, that is diverse, that really lifts each other up. I had in that same kitchen, I had a woman from Greece, and she was easily 20 years older than anyone else in the kitchen, but she did not move fast, but everything tasted fabulous. She could set up for a seafood buffet in a day by herself. No one bothered her. She did it, and I didn't even have to think about it. It was perfect. So why would I not keep her? She is amazing at what she does. Find the things that make those people work. If they're passionate and they do what they do well, bring that into the fold, right?
100%.
Yeah, for me, I think we need to let go of the old ways, but not forget about the old ways. I think you need a solid foundation. So, but to build like the sense, the three towers, you know, you need to, your mindset must change a little bit. So for us, to safeguard the chef's profession for the future, we need to really do our soul search and see what is it that is holding us back, and just come out of your skin. Come out of your skin, because the young guys that are coming in, they are not like how we were made, some of us. These guys need nurturing. They need you to listen to them. They need you to understand them. They need you to parent them. So I think it's high time that our kitchens change. We demystify all the wrongs that have been spoken about the kitchen, and make sure that it's friendly to people. And we talk more. We advocate for the kitchen. We advocate that our ways are changing. I think also, if you look at COVID, it was a reset for kitchens. I think for us now, it's a good opportunity for us to recreate.
It should have been a
yes,
reset, not for everybody, but yeah.
Exactly, yeah, okay. That's me.
Last thoughts?
If you want diverse voices and diverse ideas in your kitchen, you need diverse solutions. You've got, you know, caregivers, parents, people who are studying, people who have other responsibilities. So the flexible scheduling, the looking at ways to make it work for them will only benefit you in the long term. But anything with DEI doesn't happen overnight. And I think that's where a lot of people become disengaged very quickly because they didn't see the results happen within a month. Give it time to work, listen to your teams, and then you will get that diversity coming through, but you need to be flexible with the ways that you allow it to happen.
Absolutely. Cosimo?
A very quick one, you know, just speaking to the chefs in the room. I mean, the core of your profession is getting different ingredients and find a unique way to put them together into a dish to surprise people, get the best value out of like very simple things that spontaneously grow, you know, majority of the times out there. So why don't you couldn't you do the same with the people inside your kitchens? You know, you're mastering in putting different things together. You can do the same with people. So just think about that analogy whenever you are in a group of different talents in your kitchens.
It's a great way to leave it. So I want to say thank you all for sharing. Most of us are here. I think you have to take off, Max, but you're here for a little bit. We are all here. If you want to chat, throw ideas at us about ways that you can help retain your staff, ways to lift up your young people and make your kitchen stronger, please come see us.
I have one question from the floor. That's why I'm on the floor.
All right, yes.
I'm not too sure we can answer this one in the 22 seconds left.
Let's do it.
But we have a question from Romania.
Yes.
Related to you guys, how you're going to answer. I'll let one person answer for 1 minute, but then you need to go and see our president from Romania. The question is, how do you stop the migration from the poorer countries to the richer countries through whatever we do? Yeah, so it's around sustainability, where in my country they cook with fresh food, then they go to another country and cook with frozen food, yeah, which could be taken as a context that they're actually cooking with better ingredients, or the actual skill set is better, to go to a richer country to work. 1 minute.
Oh my God.
And I choose...
That's hard.
Chefs.
Vice Chairman.
All right. Fabulous.
And then to have a chat offline with our president from Romania. 1 minute.
Oh my goodness.
Interesting question.
You can start, and I can help you also with the...
1 minute only.
I mean, for us, the answer is pretty easy. You know, with the Food Foundation and World Chefs in the Feed the Planet partnership, we organize projects not always in the same countries. We know who are the same countries. We go where we see the need of people getting upskilling, where people need to be given opportunities. A person migrates to another country because cannot find the right opportunities where the person was born. So it's if you cannot, you know, if it's not, let's say, university accepted, or it's not always the case to take a person, a talent, and bring it to another country, because this leaves the origin country, poorer in talents as well. Then you bring the opportunities to them. Of course, with our projects, we cannot shape the economy of a country, but we can make sure that a person gets at least a start, gets at least a first opportunity. We can create an environment where people are heard, where people are given opportunities to grow themselves and their communities where they are.
I think for me as well, you need to give people respect. People leave because they don't get respect in their own countries. If you give people respect, they stay, regardless of money. Thank you.
And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, we thank our panel. We thank Shonah, our Vice Chair of the Feed the Planet. I'd like to ask to join us on stage Chef KK Yao. Chef KK Yao to deliberate. If you can stand in front of the table, my army of young chefs from Singapore will maneuver behind you, and they will handle everything. Ladies and gentlemen, a big thank you, round of applause. Cosimo Scarano, head of Electrolux Food Foundation, like a chef. Be like a chef, put down the knives. My goodness, that must have been exciting for you. James Khoza from the South Africa Chefs Association, some excellent words from James, thank you. Max Simpson from the CEO of the Steps community, of course. Our lovely Shonah Chalmers from our Vice Chairman of Feed the Planet, empowering the Brigade of Tomorrow. Thank you very much. And for those that want to jump on, my friends from Romania are watching. 1 minute, Chef. One more without the crowd in the back. Watch the hand, watch the hand. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Well done. Congratulations. Thank you. Well done. Thank you, Chef.